back to the IMNerd podcast. I'm your host, Frayway. I'm here with my co-host, Kenny.
Yo, yo.
And today we're going to be talking about Arcane Season 2. But before we get into that, why don't I just ask you, Kenny, how are you doing overall? Like, it's the week of Christmas, basically, at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that there's a lot going on with family time and gift giving and gift shopping and all that stuff.
I hate it. All of it. I love it and hate it. It's fun. You go, you see people. Like, the end result of it all is usually fun. But man, is it a lot of stress and running around. I was just talking to you before we started. I did a lot of running around all night today when I woke up. And I still have more. There's things that it's like, and then you forget, like, oh my God, it's actually the 22nd, which is when we're recording this. And there's shit I have to do the entirety of the 23rd. And then obviously, what's the 24th? Oh, it's Christmas Eve. Something that still fucks me up in all of my years of life, for whatever reason, is I always miscount the days. In my head, Christmas is the 25th, but that's Christmas Day, and Christmas Day, for the most part, doesn't matter. Everything that happens is Christmas Eve, so I should think of it as the 24th, but I don't. I always think of it as the 25th. I always give myself mentally one more day of leeway, and I never have one more day of leeway.
Yeah, this is an interesting time of the year. I love Christmas time, but I've taken a lot of the stress out of it this year because I decided that no one's getting shit. It's going to be thoughts and prayers and the thought that counts this year for everyone. So that alleviated a lot of the stress that usually comes with it because buying gifts for people is really hard. So I've just decided that gift cards are the easiest thing. And honestly, my mom started doing that like years ago, and I thought it was kind of a lazy way to buy somebody something. But now I'm realizing as I got older, she was just right. I mean, she was always right about a lot of things. But yeah, I think that when you're trying to shop for specific people, especially people who buy what they want naturally themselves, it's a pain in the ass. And the way my family kind of works is everyone just buys what they want already. Like, we're all kind of impulsive buyers. Me, my sister, my mom, all of us. So I have decided that, yeah, you guys are just going to get these gift cards and the rest of the people are asked out because I'm tired of stressing about this stuff every year. So
yeah, we tend to do the way we alleviate in terms of buying gifts for most people. We still have to do some other random shit. The way we alleviate buying gifts for most people is we usually just do a Pollyanna or a Secret Santa or whatever you call it in your neighborhood. And yeah, we just do that. And it just adds like a fun little event to it. And it makes it so that you don't have to feel like you needed to buy something for like your random cousin that you see once a year. You just kind of do this Secret Santa thing and call it a day.
One of the funnest Pollyanna, Secret Santa, White Elephant gift things that I've ever done was at my old job where everyone bought in a gift that had a max value of $50. And they all got laid out on a table and they put us all into a circle that was made with like electric tape on the ground, like on the floor. Excuse me. And everyone had to bounce balloons in the air and everyone had a different color of balloon. And if your balloon hit the ground, then you had to take a gift from the 15 that were lined up. And then the person who was out next gets to choose a different gift, or they get to steal the gift that the person who was out first unwrapped and showed. Like, because when you're out, you go to a gift, you unwrap it. No one knows what any of the shit is. But you unwrap it and you're like, oh, I got a ninja, like one of those things that turns fruit into smoothies or whatever, or I got an air fryer, or I got some AirPods, or whatever it is, right? Like, $50 gift. So think about the realm of that. But you go out, and so like the last person out gets the pick of the litter. They can choose literally any of the gifts that have already been unlocked by the other people. And what happens is, like, if I steal your gift, like if I'm out 15th out of 15 people, I can look at the lineup and be like, oh shit, I want those AirPods. Sorry, Mike, but I'm going to take the AirPods, so you get to unwrap this last gift that's still unknown. Or I could unwrap the last gift that's unknown and take my chances. But realistically, the person going last is just going to choose one of the 14 that have already been exposed. And it was really fun. I thought that was really fun. Yeah. Also, because my coworkers were not athletic at all. Not to say that I am, but like I was 22 and they were literally 50 and 45, and it just wasn't really a fair thing. So I'm just sitting there like,
wasn't close.
I have my two balloons and I'm just like hitting them up in the air and just preventing them from ever like hitting the ground. For whatever reason, when I was younger, I used to do that naturally with balloons. Like I would just see how long I could balance a balloon. Yeah. So I never thought that would be useful, but it's more useful to me than geometry is, or fucking E = MC squared or whatever. Like,
yeah, that's just the way the world works. It's funny. I've done something like that. I didn't ever play the balloon version, but I've played the version where you can steal gifts.
Yeah.
It is pretty fun, and it causes people to laugh and everything like that. So it is a good time.
But on to the actual topic here. So we're here to talk about Arcane Season 2, and I did allude to this a little bit to Kenny. I'm not sure if it was on camera or off camera, but I think it was off camera. But I personally did not really enjoy this season the way I enjoy season 1. And I'm definitely willing to discuss it and go over my gripes with it. I think that it's not an awful show this season, but the problem is it followed season 1, which was, I believe, in all honesty, was pretty much a flawless TV show. Like, season 1 is one of the best seasons of television I've seen for anything ever. It's up there where, like, the good seasons of Game of Thrones, season 1 of House of the Dragon, certain seasons of, like, Homeland, and a lot of the other shows that are like Ozark. Like, it's up there. Like, I will watch season 1 of Arcane again the same way I would restart season 1, 2, 3, 4 of Game of Thrones, because those are like the 4 goated seasons and stuff like that. So Arcane season 1 was a masterpiece. I think it deserved all the accolades and praise that it got. Season 2, I was watching it, and I waited until it was completely over to watch it. So I got to binge watch it a bit. And as I'm watching it, I'm staring at the screen like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. And a part of me started to think, maybe, am I not paying attention? Did I not remember some things? But in reality, and I'm so glad that I was vindicated by this by researching it after I finished the whole season, but like, things were just super rushed for some reason. And I feel like they tried to fill season 2 with a lot of plots that either had to be rushed to a conclusion or just don't even have a conclusion at all. It's a lot going on. It reminds me of Game of Thrones last season, where you have things happening and being resolved too fast. AKA The Long Night is an example of that. It's like, holy shit, this was built up for so long, and it's just like, snap a finger, this is completely resolved. And to relate it to Arcane season 2 specifically, at the end of season 1, Jinx fires off a nuke into like Piltover. Yep. And it's the council with all the people who make all the decisions and shit like that. The people at the top. She does a terroristic attack at the end. That's like the last thing you see. And it's set up for this season to be epic as hell and like insane. And basically a war between the bottom and Piltover, Zaun versus Piltover, which season 1 was amazing because of all the classism, which I think that we can relate to in real life too. That's why, art imitates life. I really enjoy season 1 because we're currently experiencing extreme classism happening in real life, I would say. Especially now in 2024, even more than when season 1 of Arcane was airing. I feel like it's gotten worse since then because we now have this crippling inflation and shit. Yeah. So
it only gets worse.
It only's gotten worse. So season 1 was amazing when you got to see these rich people who live at the top. You got Jace and Victor and Heimerdinger and like all of these people, right? And Kate, and Mel, they have all this money and they live in abundance. And then you have the people of Zaun, Silco, and all of his cronies, and like Vander and Violet and everybody else. Like, you have all these people at the bottom, and they don't have enough, which is why they resort to things like stealing. That was like the first thing they were doing, was stealing when they were super young, because they just didn't have enough to get by. So they went up to the top to take things. And that's kind of like a normal thing that happens in every society ever. It's like people who don't have will just take, because what else are they going to do, right? So
yeah, even in season 1, it was like they were all worried that Vander was going to be mad at them for doing like this job, and Vi was always like, "This is the same shit he does. Like he does the same shit.
Yeah,
like, you can't get mad at us." Now, granted, they ended up blowing up a building, but
right. But yeah, it's like the classism stuff, and the reason why they did things. It made sense to me that they were basically fighting for survival. It's what you would do if you couldn't make ends meet. Like, fortunately, I think that both of us on this podcast have lived in a way where we didn't really like have to grow up stealing in order to survive, right? Like I wasn't down that bad. I know that there are some people out there who actually were, and I empathize with that. But like, I never had to resort to actual like criminal activity just so that I could eat that day or whatever. Like, there was food on the table, and there was like shelter, like I had somewhere to go, somewhere to lay my head. But I empathize with like a lot of things I saw in season 1, because I am still from an area that was really, really bad in Philadelphia. Like, I grew up in an area that was just terrible. And that's the reason why my parents put me in like private school and stuff like that. So it's weird because I have like a Kate-like experience where I'm basically like this spoiled kid, but I'm amongst people who don't share that experience because they all go to public school and they all like don't get new clothes when school starts. They don't get new sneakers. They don't get Christmas gifts. It was just like very extreme. Like, I just stood out like a sore thumb in my neighborhood because the other kids just were not, and I wasn't even really allowed to play with them. Now I look at it, it's like, oh, it's because they might resent me and then like do something to me or whatever. Like, my parents were very serious about, you're not allowed to be around them. And that's, now I'm looking back at it like, damn, there's even classism within the ghetto, right? Like, there's this, you're too good to hang with those neighbor kids. And that's the type of thing that you see in Arcane in season 1. But so I enjoyed it a lot. In this season, they rush through the entire plot of fucking Jinx killing the entire council. It just kind of like resolved a little too fast for me.
Yeah. So they do this thing. So overall, I just want to say, I did enjoy season 2 a lot. There was some level of confusion I had that mainly came from the fact that I hadn't seen season 1 in 5 years or however long it had been.
Yeah, I don't know when it came out.
There were some things that, obviously not 5 years, I guess, because we did a podcast on it. But I think it was like 3 years or something. I don't know. But it'd been a while since I saw season 1. I didn't remember everything. So when I was watching season 2, there were some things that I had to like jog my memory on and be like, oh, hold on. Oh, that's right. This guy is that guy that was doing this.
It came out in November 2021. So we started the podcast July 2021. Arcane came out basically 5 months after we started the podcast. So it's been 3 years. Yeah. It's been 3 years, which is a long enough time to forget a lot.
Yeah. So there's a lot of little details, and it's a really detailed show, season 1. So anyway, there was a lot I really liked about season 2 as I watched each episode. But there was something that, and I think maybe this is around what you're talking about. Like, for example, the thing with Jinx and, the aftermath of that plot of her nuking the Piltover. They did this thing that I wasn't the biggest fan of, where there was like a lot of random montages.
Yes, bro. That's like exactly what I was thinking. A fucking montage.
At the start of a lot of episodes, they would like montage, and I assume a lot of time ended up passing during those montages.
Oh, 100%.
They would like play music and do a montage. And I think the first time it happened, I didn't fully realize that I was watching story. I thought it was just like a different version of the opening.
Me too. That's why I was confused.
So then when it happened again and I paid attention, then I realized, wait a minute, this is relevant to things that are happening. I realized like, oh, this is part of this, because it threw me off because there was a montage. It was like the start of the episode, a montage of stuff happening, music playing, and then the opening played. And I was like, wait, what?
You were very confused.
What the hell is going on?
I was just as confused. So, they did that when Kate and the group all kind of storms on and they gas the fucking place, which chemical warfare is wild, but I actually get it because a terrorist attack happened. And so now they're going to do terroristic things back. And that, that's real. Like, that shows you just how dark shit can get. It's like, oh, the people in the bottom rose up, rebellion or whatever, because they blame, even though Jinx is the one who did it, it's looked at as Zaun attacked Piltover overall. And like, yes, they're aware that Jinx is the culprit. Everyone knows that, but they still kind of blame the entire Zaun, because when they fucking send that gas shit down there, like, they don't care that it's going to affect a lot of other people.
Not at all.
They only want Jinx supposedly, but like, you're affecting everyone when you do that. So there's like this montage in the first act. I'll just call them by acts, because episodes 1, 2, 3 are act 1, and then the next 3 are act 2, and the last 3 are act 3. But in act 1, there's that montage that I think we're both kind of referencing right now, where they kind of all get armored up in hex tech and shit, including Kate. And she's all, her mom's dead now, so she's pissed, right? Jinx killed her mom. Jace is saved because Mel has superpowers that we find out at the end. And there's like a lot of stuff, because you're wondering, why the fuck is Mel unscathed, and why is Jace also kind of just like basically unscathed as well? Victor is now Jesus. But in that montage, I was watching it too, thinking it was the new opening, but that shit was really happening. And it, like you said, a lot of time had been passing, but I just don't like how quickly everything was happening and not being resolved in that montage. And then like, oh, the next thing here is that Jinx is making a new arm for this fucking person who was also like around in Zaun with the with Silco and all of his other mob bosses, when they all kind of came together to fill in the void once he's dead. I thought I want to be clear. I thought there were a lot of cool parts about season 2. I don't think, again, started off by saying I don't think that it was a bad season necessarily, but like, if you compare it to season 1, which I actually just have it as a 9.5 out of 10, I think that this season is like a solid 6.5, 7. Like, that's the max I'm willing to go, especially with that ending. Like, I just don't like it at all. Yeah, I got a lot to say about Mbessa. I think that character is badass, but then she just becomes a fucking idiot at the very end. And I think the Victor plot should have been saved for another season or something. They shoehorned that shit in so hard to me. Like,
the Victor plot was interesting. There was a lot going on for sure. And it did feel as though all of it couldn't fit in 9 episodes.
Yeah, the first 7, I think, were amazing. I think the first 7 episodes are really good. Like, there's obviously some problems within them, but like, I enjoyed episode 7 a lot, because that's the episode that's focused on the other world.
Yeah.
But yeah, in those 9 episodes, it's hard. It's hard to kind of wrap up all of those plot points in 9 episodes.
There's a lot of plot, and it's not like the episodes are an hour long either. So that's definitely understandable. It does feel like, wish there was maybe a season 3 or something.
Yeah, or like what you just said is really true as well. 9 episodes did not seem like enough for this particular season. I felt like it needed one more act.
Yeah, it needed a little bit more. The episodes maybe could have been a little bit longer.
Yeah,
like
they definitely were like 40 minutes. I didn't know they were going to be that short, but when I started watching, I was like, oh, these are all like 40-minute episodes, 44 minutes at most or whatever. I heard that the last episode was supposed to be an hour and a half, budget cuts or whatever happened, and they had to reel it back. You can tell that there were supposed to be more scenes flat out than there were, and things got it felt like House of the Dragon season 2, which only had 8 episodes, and it felt like when it ended, episode 8, I think we talked about this on the podcast, when you see Rhaenyra and she has Daemon's support finally after that Harrenhal fucking nonsense, as the armies are marching and as Otto Hightower is like chained up, and as Aegon is being snuck out of King's Landing with the clubfoot and all that shit is happening, you're like, oh my god, episode 9, which would be the craziest episode ever, because that's the Red Wedding, that's Ned getting beheaded, that's Daenerys fucking getting her dragons back from the House of the Undying, that's like the Battle of the Bastards is episode 9, it's when Tywin gets killed. Episode 9 is always cracked, and episode 8 of House of the Dragon literally felt like the next episode is going to be the crazy one. She's going to get to King's Landing, and all of a sudden, she's going to be like, where's Aegon? I have to behead this fucker guy in front of everyone, right? You know I have to do this. And he's not going to be there. And it's supposed to set up for this epic thing, and it just doesn't happen. It ends. And that's the end of the season. And we're like, well, that's a way to edge the fuck out of us. It felt like it needed...
Years.
Exactly, we gotta wait God knows how long, because we're getting a whole different show this year, but you know, we find a way to talk about Game of Thrones in every episode of this podcast. But to the point, yes, I think you're right. I think that the episodes could have been longer, and I personally think they could have just like added a couple more, but I don't make decisions on budgets and stuff like that. It seems like since that writer strike, things have been so different in Hollywood.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many victims of it, and it is a shame, because things that could have been, 10 out of 10, like let's say House of the Dragon season 2, are still extremely good in their own way.
Yep.
But then there are very unfortunate side effects of the writer's strike and COVID before that still have like lasting effects that have kind of ruined a lot of it. And there's a constant quest to like cut more budget and make more money at the top. Like, we've said this before, but Netflix shows used to be like, the thing with Netflix, it was like they were 10 episode seasons that were like an hour long each that all came out on the same day.
Yes.
And now Netflix seasons are like 9 episodes or 8 episodes or 6 episodes. And one episode is 35 minutes, but another episode's an hour and 20 minutes. It's like random shit. The episodes don't have any uniformity in terms of length, which could be okay, but it's like you have half the episodes are really short.
Yep.
Some of them are like normal. 1 or 2 of them are like extra long. And then also they're just not 10 episodes. There'll be like 6 episodes, but then they'll say like, yeah, but this episode's an hour and a half, so it's kind of like
right.
12 episodes.
I don't like that either. The whole
it's like, no, bro,
let's make the last 2 episodes super long all of a sudden. Yeah, I know like Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon have been doing that in the last couple seasons of both shows, and that seems to be a thing that's been happening with a lot of other shows. I don't understand why they don't just break things up into a whole extra episode. This adding on to the one that you're already watching to make it more convoluted is just not it for me. But to kind of take it back to Arcane, like it starts off really good. You see the aftermath, a lot of people dead. There's a memorial service that gets attacked by people of Zon, and you don't know what the fuck is going on. But come to find out, Ambessa, Mel's mom, is actually the one behind it because she wants control, right? Yeah. Like she's a military general, and her whole thing is might is right. Like might makes it right. So if I'm stronger, if I have better weaponry, if I can fight my enemies and make them and subjugate them by just brute force, she's always going to do it. So she feels like, okay, I'll make it seem like it wasn't just this one terroristic attack from Zon. There are multiple. Here's another terroristic attack. So now you guys can't possibly find peace, because at the end of season 1, if you remember, there was going to be like actual a peace was on the way between Zon and Piltover. That was like where it was going. And then Jinx, unknowingly, right, fucking destroyed that from ever being a thing.
Yeah. And the other thing about Ambessa, in addition to might is right, is also ends justify the means.
Yes.
Because in her mind, she knows that she's at war with this other country that, as far as I know, is a country of mages. Like it's where they still actively practice magic and they're mages. And so she's like, these motherfuckers are not okay. And then there's a couple scenes.
The Black Rose or something.
I really do love Ambessa. She
Me
is
too.
fucking
oh
awesome.
My God. The way she beat up on her daughter and Kate at the end, I was like, dear God.
She's like, you guys don't understand like this other country or whatever and justify the means. And then there's one point where she's talking about like how magic is unfair and like we got to do what we can to like level the playing field. And during that last fight, she has like those fucking runes wrapped around her arm.
Yep.
And then come to find out, like, they're like an anti-magic barrier or whatever, or some shit. Or
somebody tries to attack her.
Something fucking barrier. So, like, when somebody tries to snipe her or anything like that, she has, like, this fucking force field.
She's so broken, man.
She absorbs magic with the fucking thing. But then she just uses that. It's just like a thing to protect her. When it comes to her offense, it is just her straight dicking on you.
No weapon needed either. I thought that she was going to always use her spear or whatever, but like she don't need that shit. She fought barehanded and just beat Kate and her daughter's ass. She kneed her daughter in the stomach, headbutted Kate, backhanded her daughter. I was like, wait, at what point are you going to stop? Like you're going to kill Mel at this rate. Even the sorcerer who was giving Mel her little tutorial from the Black Rose was like, despite the fact that you are powerful, I acknowledge that you are powerful. A blade will kill you all the same. Like a blade to the heart. You are very powerful. You're a sorcerer now. You're a sorceress or whatever. But blades work on you just like they work on everyone else. And that was kind of to let you know that when she fights her mom, I didn't know she was going to end up fighting her mom. But when she fights her mom, as I was watching, I was like, well, she can be killed. That sorceress made sure to clarify that. Like she's not some all powerful being that's just protected from everything. She was protected from a nuke and explosion, which is broken as fuck, I will say. But like, it seems like if you get close enough to her, you can just kill her like anybody else. So I like that they kind of established, and even with like, I love so many things about Arcane. Echo and his power, where he can go back in time. It's not some suit. It is broken. Don't get me wrong. It is very broken, but it's not so ridiculous that he's just straight up time traveling and like, I'm going back an hour before this ever happened. And I'm also not taking damage. He actually keeps the damage that he sustained after an attack. And then he goes back like max of 4 seconds or whatever. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah.
They put like
the 4-second thing is really cool. And then when I love when they show him testing it and then they go over it and he sees like the catastrophic result of going over. He's like, that's the limit.
He's like 4 seconds is the max. Trust me. Trust me.
You don't want to fucking know. Like that is the absolute limit. Yeah. So the season overall, really cool. Like going back, there was, for example, something that I thought was fucking crazy cool and well done, but also super duper subtle is I don't remember his name, but he's the guy that ends up becoming like, he's the first guy that Victor like
yes, I know you're
brings
talking about.
into his cult.
Do not know his name, I know who you're talking about.
And going all the way back to season 1, he was just like a guy in the Undercity that was like part of like the guys, and then I remember there was like, he was doing a deal with some random people and like they tried to rip him off, and then Vander had his back, and then like he was doing random shit. And throughout season 1, you like saw him doing random shit. He ends up turning on Vi at some point and trades her, and like, because he becomes a shimmer addict. And then in this season, they show him come back and like he's a full blown shimmer addict, and you see like how bad it's affected his body and everything, and he's all fucked up. Then he gets cured. And then my friend is the one that pointed this out to me. Basically, when he gets cured by Victor, this shit is fucking crazy. Because at some point in season 1, he says like, like, I wish I was as strong as you guys. Like, I wish I could make a difference. Like, I wish I could actually do something. I'm just always here or whatever. He gets, transformed, and everybody that gets transformed by Victor has like, these weird marks on him. And he has like a mark on his chest and on his shoulder. And he becomes like part of the cult and everything. And he's like this leading part. Then at the end, the fucking first like robot android perfect thing that shows up, and the first time we see it show up and it starts fighting, I think Jace, yeah,
he's in a room just talking to Mel, is it? Or Kate, one of those?
That is that guy. Because if you look at the body, he has the same thing on his chest and his shoulder. And I was like, and then like I did this at work because my friend was talking to me about it. And then I went at work and I was like skipping through the scenes and stuff. And I was like, holy shit, that's fucking crazy. Mm-hmm. So it's just like cool to see like this evolution of like this character who gets picked on and taken care of. And then he like aspires to be like all the other people around him and like strong and being able to make a difference. Then he turns on all the people he cares about to become a shimmer addict. He gets cured of being a shimmer addict, drug addict. He ends up in a cult. And then the cult,
he found himself in a cult.
Ends up going to like the very extreme, like every cult does, and he ends up becoming like the first diehard super soldier for the fucking cult.
Yep.
And I like how that's all done subtly, and they never blatantly tell you, hey, this was that guy. I don't think anybody realizes in the show, hey, this was that guy.
Yeah.
But if you look at the details of the show, you can see it, and it's like, oh,
there is a scene where they make it known that it is him. Because
I might have missed it if that's the case.
When the people are transforming, when they're lifting up into the air and they're fucking contorting and they're transforming, you see him basically become that type of thing. And then
I might have missed it.
Yeah, and it's not like, because I'm sure I've missed so many things in the show. There's a lot again, but they do kind of make it known that like that is him. And then when he starts when he's attacking and doing his crazy shit, at first you're like, what the fuck is this thing? And where did it come from? And then I realized like, oh, they showed that scene when he all started transforming. That's that guy. Like that's actually him. I kind of had the same realization. I thought it was really cool because when he's, kind of dead on the table temporarily anyway, when he's dead on the table and they're like, yo, there's going to be 1 million more of these things coming for us.
Yeah.
I was like, this is bad because it took a lot to beat that one. Like he was zero diffing. Honestly, I feel like he was playing with Jace because he didn't really want to kill him. It gave me that vibe. Like he was
toying. He was part of the Victor hive mind. So Victor was kind of in control.
Victor was, and they showed that too with when Victor took over that other guy's body who was paralyzed from the waist down, right? He was switching back into him and it's like, I'm here. He was like, can I talk to him for a second? He's like, yeah, I'm still here. Like, what do you want to say to me? I was like, that's not what I wanted. Like, no, like if I'm talking to Kenny and then like some other guy pops out and I say, yo, is Kenny still in there? And then you do some weird twisty head shit and you come back like, yeah, I'm still here. I don't believe you. Like, I don't fucking believe you. Give me back my friend. Like, why did Kenny have to twist his head around for him to come back? So that one guy who was like in the underworld now, but he's from the top, but he goes down there to get like weird shit done. He likes trans women, I want to say. It's kind of the vibe I was getting from that one character that kind of, they're like animal, but I think they're also like both male and female or something.
Oh, are you talking about the,
They're like a rabbit.
You're talking about, yeah, and you're talking about the guy that was, crippled, and he was getting like what I understand to be a new version of Shimmer.
Okay.
Like he was basically getting drugged.
Yeah.
She was like drawing on him, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And then
but he was also using it for like therapy too. It was kind of like he was venting down there and all that and telling his secrets and
yeah, he was. He was definitely doing what Game of Thrones. Where they were talking about how like you go to the whorehouses to find information.
Yep.
And
Aemon Targaryen.
He was in like a whorehouse essentially, and then she was like with him, and then he was like confiding in her, and then she was like doing this drug on it was what I understood as a new version of Shimmer, because I was like, what? Because at first I was like, is she giving him tattoos? And then I realized that like it had this effect on him, like this calming effect on him.
Yep.
And then they were saying like, oh, it leaves a mark, and that's why he was doing it on his legs, because his legs are crippled. Nobody ever sees his legs, so that's why he had it all over his legs. And she was like doing this stuff to him. So essentially, he was drugging on the same shit all the Undercity was drugging on. He was just hiding it better.
Yeah. Then Bessa came in and was like, I need you to fucking do your job. Like all of this shit that you're doing, wrap this up. You're scared the one girl away and all that. But I do like, there's a lot of different interlocking storylines there, and Bessa definitely ruled the show until she became an idiot at the very end. I thought her wanting Hex Tech so that she could fight against the magical people that are going against Noxus or whatever her nation is, that made sense. She needs this stuff, so she's basically any means necessary. Like you said, the ends justify the means. So she needed a way to combat the Black Rose. The Black Rose, from what it seems like, because I don't know if we still have the conclusion to the story yet, but they killed her son. And
so real quick, sadly, I think it's confirmed that there's no season 3. So as far as I know, this is it. Okay,
so I guess they might do spinoffs. I can see that being a thing.
That would be cool.
Yeah, I think that there might be spinoffs, but we can talk about that later. So yeah, with the whole her wanting to like go against this other nation that has magic, and they killed her son, and Mel, at one point I thought that her son wasn't really dead because that the Black Rose people were able to make Mel meet him, but it wasn't really him, and there's that whole thing going on. But basically she's like, I don't care what has to happen with the Arcane, Hex Tech, whatever Victor is, I don't give a fuck about that either. As long as it can make my military might better, I'm down. And that was okay until it got to the point where Victor was like, I'm going to take away everyone's free will, and we'll all just be one big hive mind with no one able to do anything besides what I want us to collectively do. There will be no more pain in the world. There will be no more anything. All suffering will end. There will be no emotions, and all your intelligence will be stripped from you, and you won't want for anything that everyone else doesn't also want for. I was like, okay, so at that point though, now Bessa needs to be like, well, that's not right, because she said, I want you to empower, if I bring you if I bring you like to these hex gates or whatever, and I do what you say, you will empower every soldier that I bring to you, right? And he said, I will do it to every person that freely accepts it or whatever. And that was like their little agreement. But then he went fucking straight up crazy at the end. He became Ultron, right? Like literally it became Age of Ultron. And he's like, well, now everyone in the entire world needs to lose all semblance of free will, including her. Like, I don't know how that wasn't made clear that like you also won't have the ability. Everyone got put into Kyoku's Sugetsu or like Infinite Tsukuyomi. They got cocooned. Everyone started becoming like zombies. And I'm like, Mbessa, what are you doing? Like, you're going to be just like that. This doesn't make sense for you to accept his terms now because he's not actually helping you. He's just going to fucking turn you into a zombie as well. That shit didn't make any sense at the end. I was like, what is going on? It made me laugh, but I wasn't laughing because I was like, this is dumb. Like, this man is taking away everyone's free will. And the entire Zaun and Piltover has united against him. And she's just like, nah, I don't care or understand why they all united against one cause. Like, these people have never been on the same terms ever. Piltover and Zaun have never been together, united for any purpose whatsoever. And all of a sudden, they all came together to fight against Victor. And she's just like, oh, like, I just have to stop them because Victor is right. He's going to empower my army. Like, no, Victor's going to take away free will from everyone. Like, how was that? Yeah. Like, at what point? She's so smart. And then at the end, she just became like, I guess they kind of had to wrap up her storyline and kill her. I didn't like that. I think that she kind of went out. It just didn't make sense. It just did not make sense.
Yeah. Yeah, she wanted that army. She wanted to go fight the Black Rose. She wanted to go fight the other country. That's the thing, too, is like, I feel like this was a setup. Not a setup, I'm sorry, because, you know, the season, whatever. But it could have been a setup because the world is so big. And even outside of just knowing that League of Legends exists in the world of Runeterra and that there's all of these different countries and all this crazy shit that have happened on that whole planet. And something that's really cool is like in League of Legends lore or whatever, like everywhere, and this is made apparent in Arcane as well, everywhere where there is magic to be abused, it always goes wrong.
Yep.
Every single time. Like, magic is never, ever, ever done for the good when it's all said and done. It always causes like a cataclysmic destruction.
Yeah.
There's this huge world that exists, and we were getting this one small snippet of it. And part of me, especially during season 1, was hoping that maybe this could become like a franchise and Arcane would be, you know, an 8-season-long thing that's its own retelling of
I was hoping you just
kind
of burst my bubble, telling me that there's not going to be a season 3. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, as far as I know, it's been fully confirmed that there's not a season 3.
Damn.
Which is like really frustrating because I think that alone could have alleviated a lot of this stuff.
Me too.
It could have went a lot further and we could see a lot more of the world and
Here's
more things could be brought in the full perspective.
Yes, and I hate to compare it to this, but season 2 to me felt like Saw 4. Where Saw 5, okay, Saw 4 was like really bad when we watched it.
Just to clarify, he does mean, at least I hope, that it reminds him of Saw 4 in a way that I know that he's about to explain. But it is way fucking better than Saw 4.
Yeah. It's like leagues above it, no pun intended.
Because my God, Saw 4 was bad.
But the reason why Saw 4 was so bad was because it was literally split into 2 movies, basically. Saw 4 and 5 are really one movie. And if you watched them at the exact same time, if you binged them together, it actually is just one long movie that, I'm honestly not even that long because both movies are like an hour and 20 minutes. So if you watch them together, you just get like one full-length 2024 movie nowadays, like a 2 hour and 40-minute movie. But the storyline is start to finish from Saw 4 to 5. If you watch all of it, it's actually a cohesive movie. If you just watch 4, though, and you have to wait a year for 5, it's awful. It feels like, and again, season 2 of Arcane is not awful, but it feels like if there was a season 3 and it was coming out in like 6 months, a lot of this would be, I wouldn't even have as many complaints. I'm like, oh, we're going to get an explanation for these things. We're going to understand why these are, like, what the fuck happened to Victor that he became the way he became? Like, why did he, like, he fused with the Arcane or whatever like that. He fused with the Hex Tech shit, and he became like this new prophet Jesus-like dude that was able to exist in multiple different realities, because we found out at the very end that the person that saved Jace and his mom in that original like snowstorm that they were supposed to die in this entire time, that person who gave him the acceleration rune, the person that he saw who was always covered in his hood, and the person he sees throughout season 2 a lot, who is also like in that world that is just completely taken over by Hex Tech and has been like humans
that
don't.
World is fucking crazy. Like,
humans
that's the end result.
Yes.
Of the warrior. It was so fucking cool. I love when you see the scene of like in the war at the end, like last episode, when Jace like falls and he's like on his axe or whatever, his hammer. And then you realize like that is literally and then you see the fucking flashback, and then you see, because Jace comes back on some bullshit, by the way. Jace throughout season 1 and 2 has done where I was always like, fuck. Jace did some shit. I didn't like a lot of what Jace did. All right, he was always on some fuck shit.
I didn't like when he killed Victor at first. When episode 6
and fucking blew Victor up and started.
I was so mad because they had just gotten Warwick to turn back to Vander, basically.
Fucking God.
Like they were just getting him. Episode 6 to me was one of the best episodes.
So when they did whatever episode it was, I don't know the number. When it fucking had Vander coming back to his senses a little bit, and Jinx and Vi like were hugging on Vander.
Yep.
I was like, hey, we can end the show here,
bro.
I was like, we can just end the show here.
Listen,
like we can end it right now.
I was so good
with where it was. Any further.
When they started getting him back and he started to see the memories, I love the way they did the erasing of his memories and the way they showed that them coming back and stuff. Him at the bar when they were younger. I also like the little flashback where you see Vi and Jinx Powder's mom before they were even born, and she talks about like, I'm pregnant, I don't even know how I would raise a kid, that's not something I would really do. And her hair was purple, which I thought was such a cool little detail because blue and red make purple, so I thought that was like, her hair is the color violet. So I just like little details like that. Like I said, the show is not bad by any means. There's a lot to love about it. But episode 6, when they finally reunite with their dad and he's Warwick now, whatever. I thought the show could end there too, and happy ending, and I'm good with it. But
it was so emotional. I loved it so much because Jinx really does have a really tragic situation going on, and then you have Vi who's also dealing with a lot of shit, and it was just so nice to see like that moment where they were just happy and everything was coming back together. I was like, because I knew it wasn't going to go good from there. And I was just like, this is going to be bad. So, but yeah, Jace comes back. So anyway, then when you get the fucking flashback of him in the other universe, other timeline, and everything is, and then he gets to the top, and then essentially he finds himself as like a hex tech robot on the ground, and like the fucking hands crack open and he gets that hammer. That shit was crazy. And then so when you see him get taken over and he falls down, it's like, oh shit, like this is the end of that war.
Yep.
And then it's Echo from the other time, from like another timeline that comes and then ends up bossing shit out and being able to like kind of change history and whatnot there. Yeah. And also the interactions that Jason ends up having with Victor and everything. But yeah, that shit was really cool.
Basically, Victor, in the early parts of the show, he becomes God or a god of sorts, and he's able to heal people, which I thought was really cool and definitely comparative to Christ-like activities. Going around to the lowest of the low, right? He doesn't go to fucking Piltover and start saving people. He's in Zaun at the bottom of the bottom, where people need him the most, I would say, and he's healing them. And it kind of reminds me of that one story about Jesus where he's walking through a crowd of sick people, and it's understood that if they just touch his garment, they'll be healed. And so you get that imagery in that one episode where the guy who becomes that first crazy hex tech robot thing, he gets healed. Like he gets touched on by Victor. He gets touched by Victor, and then like transformed mentally and everything like that, and he gets turned into a higher being. And instead of being as some people refer to, like a crackhead or whatever, Shimmerhead, whatever you want to call him, he's now like healed of his affliction, and he's here to serve and help. And they make this little utopia town or whatever. That's all of them, and they have like a rule: no weapons are allowed inside. It's just really cool. Like I'm like, okay, I know this is going to go wrong. I don't know how yet, as it was happening before you get to episode 6. I'm like, I know something is going to go wrong. I just don't know why or where, because everything seemed fine at first. I'm like, I don't see what Victor's doing that's so bad or whatnot. Everything seems cool, and then obviously Mbessa shows up with that scientist dude who I loved his little story too. He was trying to cure death. Yes, he's trying to cure death. This is a trope that's been used before, but I love it when it is used regardless. Like I've heard of the whole like, the cure for death and the anti-life equation and all types of different things that are like, life and death existing together. Was in Bleach, there's that whole idea that at one time life and death were the same in the same realm. There was no Hecomundo, there was no spirit world, there was no like Earth, the regular world. It was all just like one thing. So that's been used a lot, but I do like the idea that they did it. The way they did it in Arcane is he was using all these different types of hex tech and basically forbidden tactics to keep his daughter alive and try to resurrect her so that she could dance again and all this other stuff. And he has like a coffin in the back of his lab that he constructed for her, and she's just like forever frozen there. And there's like these pictures of her all around, and it's like a shrine. It's really creepy stuff, but it kind of makes you empathize with him a little bit, because before that he's just like a monster. He turned.
It makes you understand where he like everything. Like on one hand, you can't excuse the crazy shit that he does to people and like the lives that he kind of ruins.
Right.
But you understand, like you can understand where he's coming from. You go, oh, his daughter is dead in the back of his fucking house. Like,
Yep.
and if you know anything about any father that loves their daughter, like there's just about no. If you have the ability, there's basically no end you won't take that ability to if you could correct that problem.
Right. You
So
remember
him being a super scientist and knowing all this stuff and knowing that he can have access to these things and he can create things, he's going to take that to the final step he can take it until he dies or he gets what he wants.
you ever see The Walking Dead, the first couple seasons with the governor?
Yeah.
And he ends up having his daughter. It's like a big reveal towards the end of the governor's arc, but it's revealed that he has his daughter who has been zombified, right? He has her just like chained up in the back of his house secretly, and he's been like feeding her blood and stuff like that, you know, people's body parts or whatever she needs to like continue to survive. But in that state, with the hope that one day there will be a cure for this thing, and
he has a little scientist guy.
Yep, he definitely has, and that's so. When I saw this in Arcane, I was like, "Oh, it's that same type of story. It's the mad scientist who has someone that he loves. I thought it was going to be a wife, but it ends up being a daughter. Loves her to death, obviously, and he's trying to find a cure. But in this world, he's trying to find literally a cure for death. And obviously, Victor is able to do all kinds of shit that is beyond the scope of any human imagination. So he's hoping that, like, I hope that he could do something. But he ended up turning Vander, who was the perfect specimen, into, is his name Warwick when he becomes that thing? I forget. Yeah. Okay, he turns Vander into Warwick.
Well, not based on, but yeah, he's because Warwick is a League of Legends character.
Oh, okay. So I want to say this too. I know that Arcane is not following the exact lore and everything of League of Legends. I do not care. I never played League of Legends in my life. I don't really know any of the lore, and I don't care that this show is deviating from that, because honestly, I watched the show independently.
I think it did a lot of things better. Like I am not a League of Legends historian. I know of the lore. I used to play League of Legends like around when it first came out. And I think the lore is really interesting. But I'm not like a historian. Right. In my opinion, a lot of what they did with the lore in Arcane, though, is they took what is there. Because in League of Legends, it is after all of this stuff happened. You know what I mean?
And I can kind of feel that too. Like, this is the prequel to all of that.
Yeah. So what you get in League of Legends is kind of just like lore. You don't actually get to see the storylines play out. So anyway, I think what they did here in Arcane is a lot better for a lot of the lore in League of Legends, and it like helps, like, even though it's not exactly the same of how it would end up in League of Legends overall, but they took the idea of the lore for the characters. Like, for example, just looking at Vi, if you look at her character design, if you ever look at actual Vi in League of Legends, her original character design is fucking terrible, because she's supposed to be like this knuckle brawler, bruiser girl, right?
Right.
But in League of Legends, she's still like a fighter. She has like these big gauntlets like she does in Arcane, but she has like a corset on and like a frilly skirt.
Oh,
and
that's
like
not her at all.
You know what I mean? And like boob armor and stuff. Like, she doesn't look like this rough, tough Undercity knuckle brawler, like fucking bar fight. Like,
definitely not black hair Vi.
Bro, by the way, black hair Vi did things to me, okay?
Yeah, I love black hair Vi.
Bro, there was my fucking God. I just want to say, I know we're all over the place. I fucking love Vi. There's a lot of people.
She's my favorite character.
There's a lot of people that hate her. There are a lot of people that say that everything that happened is her fault, that the reason why Jinx died is her fault. By the way, I don't think Jinx is dead.
Yeah, Jinx is not dead.
But there's a lot of people that say, like, everything that happened, everything that went wrong is Vi's fault, and if she was just, like, mature and she blah, 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 she could have, like, fixed.
That's so unfair.
I love Vi. She went through so much.
Yeah, like, what the fuck?
I get it. Like, in season 1, when she like smacks Powder and she's like, "You are a Jinx," and blah blah blah. Like, in that situation, a lot of emotions were happening, and then it's like literally 37 seconds after that happened, she like runs back to try to save Powder, and then she gets fucking drugged and dragged away by that other guy whose name I don't remember.
Yeah.
And then she's been trying to help out, like, all this stuff. Like, there's so much that happened. And then, like, she got her dad back. Because a lot of people were saying, like, worst sister ever. Because, like, you know, Jinx ends up falling and, you know, using the grenade and blowing her and Warwick up. But then Jinx also has fucking Super Saiyan speed, where she turns pink.
Bro.
And then if you slow that scene down, you can see a pink streak run from the explosion. So she's not dead, everybody. She's alive.
Listen, when Warwick first appeared and he zoomed past Ambessa to get to to get to the blood of the scientist who was basically calling him, and Jinx encountered that fucking thing and it tried to attack her physically, and she started Super Saiyan dodging everything it was doing. I said, wait, I thought that thing was going to be like zero diffing everything. Jinx was evasive as fuck, and like it was moving in slow motion.
Do you remember when like her and Vi have that fight, and then she throws her gun in the air, and then like flash steps into the air to grab the gun and then fucking shoot it?
I was like,
bro,
what the fuck?
She was on some
Jinx's
shit.
fighting style is actually the coolest looking thing in Arcane. That shit, the way she like gets the eyes and then she dashes away, and then you just see like her crazy ass eye and her glowing pink. And all you see is like the color flash of blue, but then the red. Oh my god, she's like Nargacuga, fucking moving around. Like, Warwick was trying to attack her. He in that small hallway they were fighting in. He was trying to attack her. She was dodging everything, and then eventually she did get like pinned up against the wall. She was like, "Go ahead, do it," and then he couldn't do it because that's his daughter. But I thought that entire thing was amazing.
Just for some people who might not have noticed because you mentioned the eyes, Jinx, who has blue hair, she has violet eyes, and Violet, who has violet hair, has blue eyes. Just like just another cool thing, like with the mom and the mom having a hair color that's kind of a mix of both of the kids and blah blah blah.
Yep. Yeah, so good.
But yeah, the way Jinx fights is fucking crazy. She is on all bullshit. Her blinking around and flash stepping. It's like, what the hell?
Yeah, I was like,
happening?
are we just supposed to accept that she's supposed to be human? Like, what? And she lost a finger in this season. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, I love when she like gives the middle finger, but her finger's not there.
Yeah, that was so good. But then she gets a way to do it anyway. Like later on.
Oh man.
Oh yeah, she's great.
Yeah. So anyway, I like Vi a lot, and she has a lot of her own trauma. And the other thing to remember is that like I don't know exactly how old she's supposed to be, but like at most she's like fucking 22 here. Like by this point, like I don't even know if she's that old. She's probably like 19, really.
Yeah.
Because everything that happens in season 1, she's like, I don't know, 14 or 15, and then like there's that time skip where let's just say she's like 18 or 19, and then season 2 through the montages, I feel like there were like kind of a couple mini time skips, like maybe a couple months here and there.
Yeah.
But she's still very young and dealt with a ton of trauma and had a really hard upbringing. I don't know. I like Vi a lot. I love when she like goes down to like the drunken pit and is fucking bar fighting and bare knuckle brawling.
I think you were gonna say when she goes down on Kate, but okay, never mind.
Well, I mean, I also love that. Apparently, and it's all I can hope for, God, that this gets put on the internet. That scene was longer.
Oh.
There's an extended cut of that scene.
Oh.
That is more explicit. And the guy apparently said on Twitter that he has it. It's not like lost footage. It's on his computer. And so now everybody's like, yo, bro.
That needs to get leaked. Like someone needs to hack. He needs to get leaked. And I'm using air quotes. He needs to get hacked. And it needs to get leaked on Twitter so that everyone can have it. Because there have been some really hot scenes of girl on girl sex in this season, and like more than one. There was more than one instance, which I thought was really interesting. There's like a lot of lesbian sex and a lot of lesbianism in general, which I know that a lot of conservative people just could not stand it. They're like, why is this necessary?
So
why do we have this at all? But it's like, bro, you tolerate love stories and all types of sex scenes and any other thing and any other medium. And now that it's 2 girls, it's too much. Get over it.
That is a funny thing, because you might have people complaining that like it's okay for them to be gay, but they just keep shoving it in my face. but the thing is, like, the main characters, they're the main characters.
Yes,
they're gay.
Vi is the main character in the entire show.
You're going to see gay shit happen because they're fucking gay.
Yes,
like I don't know what to tell you.
Kate is gay, and Vi is gay, and so is the girl that betrayed Vi and everything at the very end, or betrayed Kate in the very end.
When she shot herself in the head.
Yes.
When she goes to shoot Kate and then the barrier shows up and it fucking deflects and she kills herself. When I tell you, I audibly cheered. I was like, yes!
I hated that girl, by the way. The way she just like so coldly turned on Kate and said, I did enjoy your warmth. That sounded so cold and like robotic. And I hated that. When she said, she's like, by the way, I enjoyed your warmth. I feel like there was some sexual innuendo with that statement. Like saying I enjoyed your warmth, like the warmth of your mouth or something, like, because like, obviously lesbianism, but I was happy when she died too. It was one of those moments I was like, oh shit. Like I had one of those audible, like, cause it happened so quick. Obviously it's a bullet. So it was probably 1 second in reality. And the way they showed it was so abrupt. And I knew when it ricocheted, I said, oh, she's dead. Like that shit killed her. There's no effect. She's fucking dead.
Dude. That's the other thing about Arcane too, is that like I like the way they show, I guess, death and how quick it happens. Like the one dude, I think his name's Loris,
who was fighting
I fucking
Warwick.
Love this guy. And no, does he fight?
Well, he doesn't fight him. He gets killed by him. And Bessa's general, like her right hand man.
No. Okay, so not him. I'm talking about
Okay.
the drunk guy that Vi that ends up finding Vi. Vi's drunk and he's drunk.
Okay.
And then like what's really cool is that he has a whole storyline that's not really shown because he's just like a drunk homeless guy. And then he ends up becoming like a general with the fucking enforcers. He's like a really big dude, like big square face.
Mm-hmm.
And the way he dies is like I think he's like on the turret and he's like and then he gets like shot.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah,
he just shot in the neck,
dead.
And he's just like dead.
Bro, he's just dead.
It's crazy because I like that character a lot, and it's crazy because he had a whole storyline that kind of happened behind the scenes. As you saw him in each scene he was in, he kind of like had some progression in his storyline that was happening subtly, which I thought was cool. And then like you get to the end, and he just fucking dies. Like he just straight up,
it was quick,
life taken. Like arrow to the back, and he's still going, and then like like another 2 arrows, and like I think 1 or 2 of them like were just straight through his neck, and then he's just like
And speaking to the guy who was in Bessa's bodyguard, the big white dude who had a giant weapon as well. He had like really cool facial hair. He looked awesome. I actually liked his character design. He was bigger than her, which is rare because Bessa's like one of the biggest characters. But he ended up going or trying to go toe to toe with Warwick and literally got ripped to shreds to the point where they never showed his bottom half after that encounter. They showed like torso up. They did not show torso down in any of the scenes that his body was left in when they buried him, when they showed him on the ground, when Bessa was looking down at him, and that montage music was playing as she kind of has to accept his death, but she also was thinking like, if you die, you're weak kind of thing.
Yeah.
But she respected him, obviously, but she's looking, the way they film it, she's looking down with disgust at his dead body. And as they're storming the place that Victor has made a utopia out of, and like, Jace just came in and killed Victor or whatever. And then that's when Victor makes the decision, okay, I tried doing this in a way that preserved everyone's own free will and like individuality. But then he said, and I love his little speech at the end of episode 6 after he gets killed, is that our greatest strength is also like the reason why we do the greatest evil things. Like the emotions, our emotions, which are our greatest strength and leads to our greatest good, are also on the same side of the coin. They show like the coin spinning. And he's like, this is also what makes us capable of doing the greatest evil. And he's like, and therefore I have to take all of it away. And that's when he's like transforming into that Ultron. I'm just gonna call it Ultron again. He transforms into Ultron, and just the way he was talking was dope. It's like, I empathize with humanity, and I wanted you guys to, even his first couple people that he transformed, they were still themselves, even though he could possess them at any point and speak through them, but they were themselves. And like the guy who's like telling Bessa, you have to hand over your weapons and all that stuff, and like that was him. Like he was saying that as himself. But then after he gets blown up by Jace, he's like, all right, enough. Like there's war happening outside of my utopia. A lot of my people have died. He could feel the pain of them dying and all that. He's also trying to change Warwick back into Vander and give him back his memories. And as he's trying to do that, which is a good thing, he gets killed. And he's like, yeah, fuck it. Now I'm just going to take everybody's free will. There's
so much. Because the next, something I want to mention before I forget it is like, I want to talk a little bit about Isha as well.
Same. I want to talk about Isha, and I want to talk about the other world that Echo ends up going to. So let's talk about Isha though, for sure.
So right before that, I just want to say, it is a shame, going back to what you said at the start of this podcast. I feel like all of the characters and all of the plot lines and story in this show / season 2, I truly think are fucking like incredible. Like I thought they were all really fucking good. The big, I guess, downer on it, because overall enjoyed it a lot. Frazier said he liked it. It is just a shame, to what Frazier said, that it feels as though budget cuts and writer strikes.
Yeah, I feel like it was affected by things outside of just a bad writing.
Yeah, I don't think like writing is necessarily what hurt this. It's the fact that like time constraints, budgets, like all the other corporate bullshit ended up kind of constraining the rest of what it could have been, because it was like everything there I thought was so fucking good. It just needed a bit more
exploration, a bit more exposition.
Yeah,
because like, okay, even Game of Thrones ending is not a bad ending, actually. It's that it's rushed. The biggest complaint about Game of Thrones season 8 is not that Daenerys could never become the Mad Queen. In fact, there's little hints of it throughout the show. If you go back to episode 1 and watch it all the way through to when she becomes the Mad Queen, you can see how it could happen. And even when she got captured for that brief period of time where Tyrion was ruling over the pyramids and everything like that, while she was gone, and when she came back and her kingdom was under attack, the first thing she wanted to do, she's like, Tyrion said, what are you going to do? She said, I'm going to go out there and burn every fucking ship to the ground to ash. I'm going to kill everybody. I'm going to burn everything to the ground. And he was like, right, you could do that, but that would make you no different than them. And that would make you the same as your father and my father. He's like, our parents were terrible people. We need to leave the world better than they left it. And he gave her another way.
Another great point in that, in terms of seeing her madness very early on, because it is there. It's just in the final seasons, it isn't executed in a way
it's
that
just too abrupt.
Very believable. Yeah, but if you go all the way back to the beginning, when she fucking gives her brother a crown and she says like dragons don't burn or whatever, and she fucking pours the gold on his head, that is a very like crazy, like that's her brother, like as much as she's been through, it's still her brother. And the fact that she was able to just like, she murdered him, like no one else, like she murdered her brother, like let that be clear. So there was always the mad queen in her. It's just that the way it was executed by the end of the show, which is very unbelievable.
Yeah, 100%. And that's kind of how I feel about some of the things that happened in Arcane season 2. Is like, I don't think that the conclusion is necessarily bad. I just think that trying to stuff that plot line with the time travel stuff, the multiple realities and all of that, I think that could have been an entire season with Victor alone. I think that this season could have focused more on Mbessa and the relationship between Vi and Jinx. And the whole Warwick storyline, I think, is amazing because that brought them back together, right? Like, that was the whole reason why those two came back together. That could have been like, the way we said episode 6 was basically a good ending. They could have stretched out the first 2 acts and made it longer. And like, it ends with kind of the episode 6 where Isha's sacrifice happens. And then the beginning of season 3 is, you're watching it like, which will be episode 7, the different reality that Echo's in. You're like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, Powder, Jinx is now Powder. She's dating Echo. Vi's dead. You're very confused. Then it kind of reveals it at the end of episode 1 of season 3. He's in a fucking different reality. And from the beginning, he's acting all weird. Yep.
And you can stretch that out. And then like it can kind of come together and then like essentially like bring the 2 seasons together and have like a big finale. It could have been, it would have been fucking awesome. And I truly don't think it's like they didn't want to do that. I truly think they just had constraints and weren't given enough freedom or budget.
Because the Black Rose stuff is completely unresolved too. You could tell that they wanted to do more.
So much more with that whole mage country, the Black Rose. Like there's so much more there, and we just don't really get any more of it.
Because they were talking about we wanted the weapon and your mother hid it from us, and we went after we thought it was in your brother, but then we found you, sister. And then she like glows gold and everything. She breaks through that mirage thing. All of that weird talking in tongues and shit and mysteries, and like there's a lot going on that is completely unresolved now that I know that there's not going to be a season 3. Because I went into this podcast thinking that, this is just season 2, and I probably will have a different opinion on season 2 once I get to season 3 because I'll watch them together. But now knowing that this is actually like the end of this entire
spinoffs. I hope you're right, and there's like spinoffs, even if there's like little 3-episode spinoffs or something. I don't know,
bro. Right now, just thinking about the way everything went, it's worse now to me because the Mel storyline is so random now. That's it. Like, you cannot have a character like Mel who was a politician and always trying to do the right thing, like the opposite of her mother. She gets found out to be this amazing, powerful weapon sorcerer with all this magical ability, able to protect herself from death and like even fight against her mom and all this other stuff, make bullets deflect. You give her all of this and like we don't know what she really is and why she's like that, and like who did Mbessa have an affair with, because they alluded to Mbessa was embarrassed by this whole thing. She hid this whole thing. Like, who is Mel's dad, and like why does she have these abilities and stuff now?
There's a lot more.
That's so unfortunate.
A lot more.
That's so unfortunate.
But going back real quick to Isha,
yes, definitely want to talk about her.
Like the whole plot line of like Jinx kind of ending up becoming like this figurehead for the Undercity, and her not really wanting that crown, and her just being her playful, weird self, her damaged, broken self, and then her finding like this light in Isha and like taking care of the scenes with her and Isha are so fucking cute. By the way, when they're just like hanging out and like playing with beetles and shit.
Yeah, I love it.
And then there's just so many little things.
She's basically a big sister to this little girl, the way Vi was a big sister to her. And Isha literally dyes her hair blue, like everyone else is on, to kind of show that she loves what basically what Jinx stands for. So Isha's all adorable and cute, and she's kind of like a Jinx in a way. She likes guns. She doesn't shy away from death, even when Jinx kills those guys in the alleyway to save Isha.
Yeah.
And it's really dark. Like, she just shoots them in the head. She just kills them. Like, she kills these guys. And Isha's watching it happen. And then she, like, points the gun at her. She's like, phew. And Isha does it back, and she's like, pfft.
And then like the little poof thing. Oh my god, okay, real quick to give credit where credit's due. Everywhere you got to give it. The fucking animation in this show.
No, it's amazing.
Is so absurd.
It's absolutely amazing.
All the little things too are so. But yeah, just her and Isha. Like I'm all over the place. But like the scene where Vi and Jinx are fighting, and then Vi's about to fucking punch Jinx's face in, and then Isha shows up between them, puts the gun in Vi's face, and whatever, and then Caitlyn is about to fucking shoot Isha.
Oh yeah, yep.
And Vi's like, "What are you doing? Like it's a fucking kid." And Caitlyn's like, we're not Isha. She's about to shoot Jinx, and she's like, "I'm not gonna miss."
But yeah,
she's like, "Yeah, but what if you do? There's a kid right there."
Right, the kid is there. That's the whole point, and that's when she starts to say like, "You're becoming someone else at this point, Kate. Like you're becoming this dark person. That's not really you." But Kate is like, "This is me now. I lost my mom, and I'm tired of playing nice with these fucking people. I'm willing to murder and gas them and do whatever dark, underhanded tactics I have to do now because I'm hurt." And that's just kind of going back to Victor. And I think the Victor thing would have been so well done in another season, but like they could have even used season 1 and season 2 flashbacks to show it when he's making that amazing speech about how our greatest strength that allows us to do our greatest good and the coin spinning. They could have been showing scenes of like Jinx shooting the missile and like the gassing of Zon that they did to like flush them out, and like all the other terroristic attacks that Silco did. And they could have shown a montage of all the different heinous things they have done, because there's good people at the top and bad people at the top, and there's good people at the bottom and bad people at the bottom, right? Like Vander and stuff. But obviously good people in there at the bottom, and you have Silco, who's like what you would consider like not good, and then at the top you have the same type of thing that you have people like Mbessa, who she's obviously very well off and rich, and she's never going to be in Zon, and she's terrible, like she's a terrible person. And then you have like people who are genuinely good, like Heimerdinger, but he is too complacent and allows things to go too far, and that's kind of his greatest sin, is that he will help somebody who is not well mentally because they are brilliant.
He also I'll say this real quick about Heimerdinger and then say a couple more things about Isha. The thing about Heimerdinger too that is like so interesting is that he genuinely, I think, is probably one of the most good-hearted people and one of the most intelligent people in that show. And he knows from season 1 how bad it is to he knows how bad magic is. He's lived for like 600 years.
Yep.
He said he's seen the end of multiple civilizations, and it always comes after they start dealing with the arcane and magic and whatnot. And it's no different. But he loves a scientific and a curious mind, so he helps cultivate his pupils. And so like he cultivates Jace, and then he cultivates Echo, which then ultimately leads to like some really unfortunate things that end up happening with Heimerdinger and whatnot. And we can get to that because I know you wanted to talk about the other timeline.
Stuff. Yep.
The thing about Isha, I just wanted to say before I forget, that's like so sad. Such a cute little character with cute interactions with Jinx. And something that you said that's important is that like essentially Jinx played the big sister role to Isha.
Yeah, because at first she doesn't want the little girl obviously around. She doesn't understand.
Yeah.
Stop following me. I'm not your friend. I don't want to be around you. She points the gun at her, like, I'll kill you. Isha doesn't care. She just follows her anyway, loves her to death. And eventually she gets through to Jinx, and Jinx clearly has a soft spot for this little girl who's clearly nonverbal autism, I would say, is like if I just had to put a name to what's going on with her, because she can't speak, like, actually. So she's nonverbal. And you can tell by the way the character just kind of like acts and everything, the sounds they make. It basically just gives like, she just has Asperger's. She has Asperger's. She's nonverbal. That's like if you don't know, that's like a type of autism. That's like an extreme type of autism, but you can tell she's on that spectrum, and which is cool. Like to have a character like that in the show. Regardless of all of that, Jinx still is able to communicate with her in their own way, their own special way. And it's a moment for Jinx to be the big sister in a situation where normally she's the younger sister. And so, yeah, it's nice to see her protect this little girl that looks up to her in a way that Vi tries to protect Powder in every situation in the past, like every time.
But in an interesting way, as much as she wants to protect her and like she ends up caring for this little girl, it's kind of not Jinx's fault, but it's kind of Jinx's fault in a way in how she dies, because this little girl looks up to Jinx so much. And this is something I thought was like so tragic watching it. But if you look at everything, what she idolizes about Jinx is this like brash, crazy, life-risking behavior. We watch Jinx almost commit suicide like multiple times.
Yeah, we did.
Like Jinx tries to commit suicide. She has no regard for her own life. And then the way she fights and the way she handles situations is like her life is just on the, she doesn't fucking care. She's going to like push through as far as she can, but like she doesn't really have any regard for her own safety. So then that really sad kind of conclusion, which I think is also in episode 6, when we fucking lose Vander, we're so close to having Vander back. We're so close to having the happy family back. And then all of that shit happens. And then Warwick ends up going completely mad. And then when Isha runs, and then like, it's almost like she idolizes Jinx so much. She like knows that Jinx would go out in a blaze of glory.
Right.
And then so she does this thing where she like does this to go out in a blaze of glory to like save Jinx and everybody else from what's happening with Warwick. And also, maybe I don't know if this is true or not. Maybe this is reading too deep into it. I think maybe she also knew that Jinx couldn't do it herself. Like that Warwick is now at a point where he can't be saved, and that like Jinx and Vi aren't going to be able to put him down themselves because like it's their dad. And so Isha kind of knew that like maybe she had to do it and that they wouldn't do it. And this is what Jinx would do if she was in her position or whatever. I don't know, but it's really interesting. And I think she, took a Jinx move and as much Jinx tried to protect her and raise her and like have her back or whatever.
Yeah.
It was Jinx's influence that made her do something so reckless and risky that, ended up throwing her own life away.
She's definitely very reckless and risky and all that stuff, because when everyone is being rounded up in Zaun by Kate and their whole group, everyone with the blue hair and they're all being imprisoned, Isha just shows up with like, blue hair and shit, and is kind of like taunting people and all that. So you can tell that she's rash and everything too, because like Jinx, that's like a Jinx type of move, like show up and where there's trouble and not really care about what could happen. If you get captured, like you're probably going to be killed, like realistically, but Isha just doesn't really care. And so, yeah, she sacrifices herself to save Jinx, if nothing else, right? At the very least, we know that she did it to save Jinx, if nothing else. And like that caught me off guard. I was scared that they were going to do something to the character. I was like, why would they introduce this really cute little girl who doesn't speak? Like I'm growing to like this character. At first, I didn't really care for her. I kind of hated her at first. And then over time, I started to slowly like the character, just like Jinx did. And then, of course, as soon as I started liking the character, episode 6 came, and I was fucking sitting there like, God damn it, I can't go to Act 3. I couldn't even watch Act 3 sequentially after that, because I was like, I need a little bit of a break. I was like, I'm going to take a day off, and I'm just not going to watch episode 7 yet. And that was good, because 7 is a very different
It was
vibe.
sad. It was sad what happened with Isha. And then, like, in the... Oh, man. I guess right there in that same storyline, because Isha's there and she like helps with some of the stuff, and speaking of like people and betrayal or whatever, there's the thing where Vi is because there's a part where Isha is like running around like sneaking and getting stuff while they're in like the cult and getting stuff for Jinx, and Jinx is looking out on things, and then Vander's there, and then Vi goes and then like she gets jumped by Caitlyn, and then when Vi is in there with Ambessa and like Caitlyn walks away and you think Caitlyn like
that
sucks,
little
and you find out Caitlyn's still the shit and she fucking had Vi's back. But that little Vi versus Ambessa thing, Vi's lucky she got the jump on her, because I fucking love Vi, but Ambessa's another fucking freak.
no one in that show can beat her 1v1. It's not a thing.
No.
That character is too much. I don't know just how Jinx, when she's being attacked, that she does that Super Saiyan moving shit, that flash stepping shit. Ambessa doesn't even do any of that. It's like you're moving in slow motion to her, though.
Yeah.
It's just like whatever abilities you have, whatever powers you have, when you are near her, they're cut off and you become human.
Yep.
So
she's so fucking cool, man.
She is, and her armor's cool too. Her mask that she puts on when she's like serious. I love her entire design. She's so dope.
I don't know if I'm 100% correct in saying this, but as far as I know, she is an original character from Arcane. I don't think she existed much in the League of Legends lore before Arcane. Maybe her name did, but like in terms of who Ambessa is, as far as I know, most of that comes from Arcane. And she's one of the only really important Arcane characters that were added to League of Legends from Arcane. Like most of like her appearance in League of Legends is basically like Arcane completely.
Right.
It's not like she was already a League of Legends character and adapted into Arcane like some of the other ones. But she's awesome. But that said, the other timeline with Echo when he like wakes up there.
Oh, so good. So Echo, after the big explosion and Victor gets blown away by Jace and everything happens, episode 7 starts off with Echo just like waking up in a world where his appearance is different immediately. Like he doesn't have the fucking white X across his face. His hair is in a different style. He also just looks less bulky. He looks very skinny. Like he just looks very, 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 very slender. And he's dressed different. And I'm like, okay, what the hell's going on here? And then he runs into Jinx and he's freaked out by her. like immediately. Like he's immediately on edge, and she's looking at him like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" And he's talking to her, and she's saying things that don't make sense. But then he's saying things to her that don't make sense. He makes a comment about, "Well, how did Vi die? Like, what happened?" And she's like, "Don't fucking do that. Like, that's not funny." Like she gets, because at first when he was having a weird day, she's like, "Look, you're having a weird day. I don't know what's going on with you, but like, relax." But then when he makes that comment a little deeper into the episode about like, "Well, how did Vi die?" And then she gets genuinely upset. She's like, "You should leave. Like, you should fucking go. That's not funny." But the whole episode is really confusing for him because he goes to the bar that, like, basically episode 1 of Arcane season 1. He goes to that place. Everyone's still there, unscathed.
Yep. Silco's there. Vander's there.
Silco being there was crazy to me. Yeah, I was like, what the fuck? Like, in this timeline, they're just boys. I mean, they were originally anyway, but like the bad blood between them just hasn't happened in this timeline. So they're cool. Like, they're just,
or maybe the bad blood did, but they
resolved it in some way.
Ended up resolving it because the big departure, or one of the big departures that we have here in this timeline, is that there is no hex tech.
Correct.
But the hex stones do exist that caused the explosion. The explosion was apparently a lot bigger and ended up killing Vi. And I don't remember if this is confirmed or not, but I assume also killed Jace, because Jace isn't there. We don't. Jace isn't in that timeline at all. We don't see him in that timeline at all. And
he gets sent somewhere else anyway.
And we also know that I think that timeline's version of Jace died in the same explosion Vi did. Because no one does the hex tech thing. That never really gets discovered or explored upon. Once again, I don't remember if that was like shown or whatever. But anyway, he's just not shown. He's one of the only characters.
He's not shown. I don't know if he doesn't
shown at all in that timeline.
I don't know if he doesn't exist, but he's definitely not shown. And I remember that one of the things they confirm is that like that job didn't happen or something. Like they didn't go on that mission. So that explosion didn't happen, and that's, hex tech doesn't exist. But like you said, the stones exist. It's revealed at the very end of the episode that fucking Powder has the stones.
Well, wait, maybe I misunderstood. I thought the job did happen. The explosion was just bigger, and it ended up killing Vi in the process. Because they went back to the place and like they found, because Echo found like the little crystals like embedded in the wall.
Okay, right. You're right. And somehow Powder ended up with, like, at the end of the episode, it's like a little reveal where she pulls out the fucking massive chunks of those blue rocks or whatever, like in the shrine that she built for Vi. She pulls it out, and it's kind of just like that's the end of the episode. It's like, wait. So hex tech is very likely to end up becoming a thing in this world as well, because we kind of know that all worlds lead to the end. Like, they don't. The only one that really succeeds, because Victor's been through like so many different instances of giving Jace different runes. He's tried to save the world in all these different ways, but the only one where like things aren't catastrophic is the one where he gave him that specific rune, the acceleration rune. And even like when Heimerdinger says, "How did you do this?" He says, "Oh, I used Jace's acceleration rune. I reversed this and that, and I did this." When Echo's talking to Heimerdinger and he's drawing on the board, he's like, "How did you do this?" He's like, "Oh yeah, it was like the acceleration rune, specifically that one." But when we see like a little montage, and this is why I don't like the montages too, of like Victor giving all these different fucking stones to Jace throughout every time he like meets him or whatever, is like a different one. But yet then he gets like fucking embedded in his arm, and is because he needs to have that specific one to prevent the catastrophic future that happens for whatever reason in this alternate timeline that Echo exists in now. We're not showing Jace, like Kenny said. It could be that he just died in that explosion. It is very likely, but he's not there. But Heimerdinger, on the other hand, who also got sent away in this whole explosion of the Arcane, it is the same Heimerdinger. Like that is just him. And he's like, "I've been waiting for you to come here. I've been alive for a very, very long time." And he does like his montage, his little song. I love it. Heimerdinger's song is amazing.
Oh my God.
He's so cute. I want one. Like, I actually want a little Heimerdinger. It's adorable.
He's the man. Yeah. And it's crazy. Heimerdinger is such a cool character. Cause like I was saying, I love how much and maybe it's like, this is one of his flaws. I mean, it definitely is a flaw. I love how smart he is and how good-hearted he is, and how much he knows that like this advancement of magic almost always, or not almost, in his experience, always leads to a bad ending. He still wants to cultivate the minds of the youth and his pupils or whatever. And so when Echo was doing all this other stuff, and then Echo ends up using this to kind of discover some version of time travel and time manipulation, and he completely encourages it, even though he knows, like in every other situation, that this is going to end to like some level of tragedy, because magic always does.
Yeah, I like that world because I didn't pick up on it immediately, but they make it known by the end of it, the alternate reality, the Echo and Jinx are a thing. And because when he first shows up, they're just talking and there's nothing romantic about the conversation yet. There are parts though where he's like staring at her longer than I think that needed to be shown, and like she's looking at him a little longer, and it kind of made me think like, is there something happening here? What I didn't realize is that no, they already were an item. Like, and I thought it was so fucking cool, the dance they had, but then the other part where they were about to make out and have sex, and he said, wait, can we pretend that it's the first time? That shit was so good to me, because it was in the real world that he comes from, him and Jinx are enemies. Like, they're not cool with each other at all. The Fireflies and like Jinx's whole thing, they're just not on the same accord. So, and he looks at her as like, you're a fucking psycho. So him being in love with her in this alternate timeline is really dope. And him having to come to terms with that over the short amount of time before she's like, all right, you're my boyfriend. Like, we're about to make out or whatever. And when they go to do it, he's so uncomfortable, but he actually does like her now in this world, that she's shown him around a lot. They talked. She's gotten mad at him. He's gotten to realize that she's not at all Jinx. In this world, she's not. This is who she would have been if she was allowed to have a life that wasn't as, I mean, it's still traumatic because she lost her sister, but a different kind of trauma where she didn't feel abandoned by her sister and taken in by Silco.
And it helps him, I guess, realize that like she is a victim of circumstances, and like, the Jinx that he has in his timeline, it's not all her fault. Like, there's things that happen, and him and her, they were, you know, best friends or whatever when they were kids, right? Like, they got along. They were, and it also goes to show like they also obviously have a natural inclination toward each other, because in that timeline they're already dating before he gets there. Yeah. So he already, even though Jinx is crazy, he already like has an inclination toward her, like already probably had a crush on her when he was younger. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was really cute when he was like, can we kind of like do it like it's the first time?
Yeah, when he said when he said that line, my heart kind of jumped a little bit. I was like, oh, that's actually amazing writing right there to say like, can we pretend it's the first time? Because for him, it is actually the first time. That was cool. The other part that I thought was cool was that when you flashed up to episode 8, where they're back in the present and everything's been fixed, sort of like, you know, he's back. Echo's back. Heimerdinger's not. Echo's back, right, in the present. And when he's talking to Jinx, she says, there's no good version of me. Yeah. And that kind of hurt for multiple reasons. One, because even if we never saw episode 7 that showed that there is a version of her that actually is a good person genuinely, right? We know that she's wrong about that. She doesn't know that, but she's so far gone that she feels like she's irredeemable as a person, and that there was never a way for her not to be this person as she is now. Yeah. She thinks that this is who she always was going to be. Echo knows the truth. You actually are just a good person. You're a regular person if you didn't get taken in by Silco and manipulated and turned into basically this monster of the underworld.
And not only that, there is a good version of you even here in this universe, in this timeline. Like, the way you cared about Isha and what you did to bring your sister back and try to bring your dad back. Like,
yeah, and even at the end when she sacrifices herself.
Yeah, like it's a shame, because in that moment though, when she says that, she has so little regard for her own life, and she's trying, it's like she kills herself. And then Echo is getting tired and keeps rewinding time and rewinding time and rewinding time.
And saying different things.
She keeps just like keep blowing herself up.
Yeah. That's dope. Like, that 4-second loop shit that he does, the way they use that is so cool, because he just keeps on trying to say different things to see what works. And eventually he finds the right thing to say.
Which is like, and it's something I think everybody has ever, you know, like, what if, you know, we've all said something or something happened and like, or we wanted to change something and we just couldn't. And it's like, not even go all the way back in time. Like, what if I could just redo this 5 fucking seconds? Like, you know what I mean? Like, everybody's done something, and immediately after doing it, you wish you could have done something slightly differently. And then like, he gets, I guess, that opportunity to do that, but brutally watches her die multiple fucking times.
Yeah, a person that he loves, because I feel like those feelings still are there from that other timeline. He got to experience her, you know, in every which way. So like, now he's back to this crazy one, and it's interesting to have to look at her in this state and be like, fuck, like, this isn't even who you were supposed to be. But when she says that line about there's no good version of me, I was like, wow. Saying that, and Echo's right there and everything, that had to hit like so hard, because again, as a viewer, we get to see Powder be a regular fucking caring, loving person. And it's weird because she still has like Jinxisms in her, even in the other one, like the Powder, grown up Powder still has like jinxisms in there, right? Like she still has the quirky. She's still very good with like techie stuff or whatever. Like she has a mind for that type of thing. So I love it. I just love that entire episode. And
speaking of that, we get to see the grown up versions of the homies that died.
Oh yeah,
in season 1, and it's so funny because I watched this with like some family. I watched the whole thing. We all watched it together over like Thanksgiving, and one of the guys was like, "Oh no, you should have stayed." Like, no, you deserve to die.
Oh my god.
When he saw the way one of them grew up, he was like, "Oh no, you were supposed to die young," or something like that.
That's fucked.
Like something crazy.
Oh,
it was so funny. But the homies. I forget the one guy's name, but the one is like Clanger or something like that.
Yeah, I think Clanger's one of their names for sure.
And then I forget the skinny one's name. But it was really cool to see them. That whole timeline was like.
Vander and Silco still looks weird to me. I'm sorry. Those two enjoying a beer together, I was like, what the fuck is this world?
Yeah. There was no hex tech, no magic, you know?
But
they do end up kind of go to the end.
They do end up creating a new portal with a few shards, and Heimerdinger is helping, but then eventually gets to a point where, like, you know, every time you tamper with the Arcane, every time you tamper with this hex tech shit, things tend to go wrong, and it seems like Heimerdinger got sacrificed to send Echo back to his world, like his timeline.
Yeah. I don't know if he died or if Heimerdinger just got transported to another timeline.
Yeah,
I don't vaporized or whatever. I don't know.
I don't think he died. I mean, I feel like in shows like this, killing a character is a very big deal. And if they're going to kill somebody, I think that it would be given a little bit more like scream to it, like a little bit more oomph to it. And him just kind of dying in one of those scenes where you see like an explosion kind of go off and a body dissipate, like a Dragon Ball Z character like Cell or whatever disappearing or whoever. I don't think that that's the end of him. At the very least, there's other versions of him. So
just speaking of death scenes, like to go back to Jinx, when she goes down with Vander and she pulls the grenade and explodes, when you fucking see Vi turn over and she's like gripping her fucking armor and like screaming, crying.
Yeah.
Bro, oh my, I felt so, it was just, it was like such an emotional, like the way you see her just like screaming and crying was like so fucking painful.
I was also scared at how close Victor came to succeeding. There's a part where I think we talked about this in the beginning. He had everyone. I was like, how is this going to resolve itself? Like he's mind fucking everybody, including Jay. So I thought was supposed to be the person to stop him, and eventually, I guess that is what kind of happens. But
yeah, and then it's Big Echo, and even Echo, it's so broken because Echo gets to keep like going back and trying again. But then even eventually he gets caught.
Bro, that shit did not matter.
And then he has to like pump it up to more than 4 seconds, go back again.
Yeah.
And then like
I love that he keeps the damage. The first time he comes in on his skateboard, his flying skateboard, and he gets fucking clotheslined or hit in the face. And then when he rewinds it, he goes back and his face still has the blood. Like he's still bloody. Yeah. Like his face is still fucked up. And I was like, oh shit. And he goes again, he gets hit again, and he rewinds again, and then he's zooming in again. I'm like, yo, my man is getting destroyed. And then it gets to a point where like he gets gripped up, and then the mechanism to go back gets pulled, like it gets grabbed. Like you're not doing that again. And so that part freaked me out. I was like, damn, this thing is learning so fast. The Hex Tech God Victor or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, he became Ultron. He literally just became, I'm taking, like, humans don't need to exist anymore. You guys are bad for the planet. And I'm essentially I'm eradicating all of you, which again, one of my biggest gripes with that whole thing is that, like, okay, that's his ultimate plan. The fact that Ambessa was still just like, oh yeah, I'll bring you a bunch of soldiers and can you like make them into these gods, these god warriors for me. He's like, yeah, I'll do it. I'm thinking to myself, well, that you're not excluded from this though. Like that.
Yeah.
Like why do you think that you wouldn't also just be part of this whole army? And again, Zaun and Piltover have risen up together for the first time in ever to fight against one common threat. And you're just like, oh yeah, everything's fine. My daughter's fighting me. Kate's fighting me. Vi, everyone's fighting me. So I was like, yeah, you could tell they rush things. You know, you can still get to these types of conclusions. Maybe even have it where Ambessa was manipulated by Victor, or like he kind of mind controls her in a way. Like he's like, I won't turn you yet, but I basically have control over you because you're broken. And like the armies and stuff listen to you, or whatever. Like they could have wrote it in a way that made sense for her character, but I just really didn't like her. And I don't know, did she die at the end, Ambessa? Like, is she dead?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she died.
Okay.
I mean, I think she did. I mean,
she's an original character, like you said, too. So killing her doesn't really affect the lore per se.
Yeah, I mean, they added her to League of Legends anyway, but Yeah, I think she is dead.
Yeah.
As far as I can tell. I want to say something. This is kind of random, but I just want to know if you saw this video. So first of all, I love the scene when Jinx comes in and she's like fucking swagged out on the seat and blasting the music at the end during the war when she like comes in and she's like,
oh yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I just love that scene. I thought it was awesome. I was hyped.
Doesn't she come in on some like big mechanical thing, like a fucking?
Yeah, it's like a big blimp. It's like this big like mechanical blimp thing.
Yeah.
She's blasting music and she's like shooting off these multicolored firework missiles and doing all this crazy Jinx shit and just putting shit down. For whatever reason, a really popular edit of that was her coming in, but the music she was blasting was the one Kendrick Lamar song, and it's just like Mustard.
Oh, that's dun, 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 dun. That's the Ultra Instinct sound too. That's sampled in that song at that part.
Oh my god!
Like if you listen to it again, that's actually Ultra Instinct Goku being used when that beat transitions. That song is called "TV Off" by Kendrick Lamar. But in the middle of the song, it does a beat change, and that Mustard part, he screams that out, and that's been like the most popular song since GNX came out. Basically, like that and Squabble Up are like really big. But that Mustard shit is so funny because I was with Xavier and I don't know which tie I should wear, and one of them was like a yellowish color, and then he fucking responded back to me like Mustard. And I was like, bro, I'm done with you. And then every instance that you could use that shit, he's used it against me. So now I'm like scared to say, I don't know what I want on my hot dog today, or like if I anything that he could say it, he would just use it.
Over.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that I can imagine. I'm gonna watch the edit because I love that song already. If you haven't heard Kendrick Lamar's GNX album, it's amazing. Like start to finish,
it's really good.
I've grown to like it more now that I understand, because Kendrick Lamar is not a rapper that you can listen to his music once and get it. You will not you won't get all of it in one listen. And it took me a while to like go through it and listen to, especially like Reincarnated. Reincarnated is such a brilliant song. Obviously he's rapping like Tupac, he's doing Tupac's flow, but then he goes to a part at the end. It made me like sad, but also euphoric in a way. No pun intended, because he has the song Euphoria. But in the beginning of the song, he's talking about he was born in like 1940s or whatever as a musician. And then he has like all these different like problems, like drug addiction and stuff like that. He had a bunch of mistresses or whatever. Then he's reborn again as another person. Then he's reborn again as himself. He's like, present time, I'm Kendrick Lamar. And then he becomes Lucifer. And he's rapping as Lucifer, talking to God. And God is basically saying, like, you were my best angel. There was all these different colors. There was pinks, there was reds, there were greens, there were blues. And essentially he's saying, like, you manipulated man throughout time and you did all these heinous things. And that was always, like, your disposition. And Kendrick Lamar is like, yeah, but I've done so much good. All I ever wanted was your love. And then, like, it's such a cool conversation between God and Lucifer. Like, it's like a son coming back to his dad, like the prodigal son going back to his dad and making up to him. It is the writing on that song is fucking brilliant. It took me so long to realize, like, oh shit, I was like, in this last stanza, in these last 16 bars, Kendrick is Lucifer. And and Lucifer also is the fucking angel of music. Like, everyone knows that was what his job was. He was the angel of music. So just like Reincarnated, oh, such a brilliant song, bro. I love it. Love GNX. Love the fact that people are using Mustard and TV Off as a way to introduce it into Arcane. I could totally see that scene happen. I'm going to watch that after this. But yeah, Arcane Season 2, like I said, wasn't a complete flop or anything like that, but I just feel like it definitely was rushed. And we just need a little bit more to kind of explain some things. As much as Victor, as important as Victor was during the season, he doesn't have that many scenes. Every time you see him, it's kind of jumping. His like mode is jumping so fast every time you see him. It's like, bro, what the fuck happened? But
that's something I found interesting. When I got to the end, I was like, it's kind of weird because, especially all of season 1, right? Like Vi and Jinx are like the main characters, right?
Blatantly, yep.
And it was interesting that the climax of the show was more about Jason Victor.
Yes.
And not really about Vi and Jinx. And I remember just like, I thought it was kind of cool and interesting, but at the same time, just like a little weird because like the main characters weren't necessarily part of like the actual climax.
Yeah, like
obviously they were there
and
they were involved, but it was just kind of weird. And it definitely, if there was just more content, another season, or just if the episodes were longer, if there was an extra episode or two.
I think season 1 is so much better because the conflict between Zahn and Piltover is so good. Just the conflict between the top and the bottom, Flea Bottom versus the Red Keep. essentially. Like that idea, that is always going to make for a better storyline, I think, than Ultron being wanting to take the free will away from every human being. Like that, like you obviously can do that kind of storyline well, but we've seen it too much for one. That the idea of some entity trying to take everyone's free will and make everybody uniform, we've seen this so much. I named it in this podcast. Infinite Tsukiyomi is that. Like, there's so many different stories in anime and mediums that do this. Oh, this guy he doesn't want to kill everybody. He wants to take away your free will. We've seen it so many times. He wants to save everybody. And it's like, bro, we've seen that so much. I don't think that it had to be shoehorned into Arcane. And I just really like I guess what I'm saying is I like the grounded aspects of Arcane more than what it became in the end was a little bit too much. Like Mel was a superpower sorceress. And like, Ultron was like turning people into robot godlike beings that took a lot of effort to beat. It's like, okay, this is very far from what it started out as. And I get it that that's what the Arcane does, is it advances things a little too much. But I think that it happened too fast between season 1, which was extremely grounded, and season 2, which is like Megazords.
Yeah, it's crazy. It is just one of those things. I look at it as a victim in a way because I think so much of it is so good. I think, all the characters and the story, everything they were doing and wanted to do, I think is like really, really good and well done. But then it's just a victim of budget and everything. And so, it could have been better and it could have been more fleshed out. And some of the issues with it is more, it's like, my issue with it is that I know it could have been better and should have been better.
Same.
And it's just like,
I think an entire extra season would have been so good for this show because you could have had this season 1, the culmination of everything is Jinx firing off that missile. Season 2 is the fallout from what happens with that, where you have the top invading the bottom and like flat out war between the two. And that a war between the two would take a season to really resolve. And Jinx maybe ends up in cuffs. The Xander reveal happens at the finale. That Warwick is like actually Xander, and like there's that whole thing. But to have all these different plots happening in one season in 40-minute episodes was like, holy shit. I was watching this episode and I kept feeling like I was missing something or I wasn't comprehending something, but then I realized that things are just happening. Like things are just happening, and you kind of have to accept it.
That is something too. I just didn't have time because holidays, and it just fucking sucks, man. But I did really want to rewatch it because I had a feeling that there was definitely some things that I missed, and that there was a lot there. And like I said earlier, I didn't fully remember everything that happened in season 1. And so I wish I had time to rewatch Arcane season 1 and season 2 back to back. But due to the season that we're in, like it was around Thanksgiving and then boom, right into the holidays of Christmas, like there just was not time to do that.
Yep.
Eventually I will, because I fucking loved season 1 and I loved season 2 as well. There's just issues that and unfortunately had, and it's like, it could have been better.
Yeah.
But I want to watch them back to back. I wish I got a chance to do that, but I didn't.
Yeah, I definitely just would love to watch season 1 again. Season 2, I can't necessarily say the same, but I feel like if I were showing it to someone, I would have to watch season 2 again. Then maybe I'll change my mind depending on how I feel about watching it consecutively like that. But I just started with season 2, and for the most part, like I remembered enough to get by. Like I was like, okay, I understand who the characters are. I still know what places they had before. There's probably some small things or whatever that like, oh yeah, that's why this is happening, or that's who that is. Like you said, the grown-ups who died when they were children, I don't really remember what they looked like that much as kids anymore. I don't really remember too much about the first couple episodes of Arcane season 1 where they were before the time skip. Like I don't remember much about that. I just know that the big part of the whole time skip was Powder getting back, like kind of backhanded by Jinx and getting called "you're a fucking Jinx." And then when Vi like walks away from her, she tries to come back to her, but then she doesn't get there. Silco ends up getting a little girl. Time skip happens. Jinx is now his right-hand woman, and she's going around collecting for him and doing all kinds of other bad shit. So but I mean that's Arcane. Like I said, definitely not. It's not awful. It's not enough to say that the show is bad or anything like that. It just has one of those endings that. And now that I know that there's not another season, it definitely has a Game of Thrones feeling to it now, because it should be better for an ending. And I definitely don't think that like whatever the fuck happened between Jace and Victor at the end was a satisfying ending to this entire thing. Like it's just not. it's just not a satisfying end to this whole thing. I'm not exactly happy knowing that there's not a season 3, because what the fuck, the black roasting by itself not being resolved but being introduced this season, and they spent a lot of time on that storyline. They fucking killed somebody like Alaka, not Alaka. What's the creepy doll sister that Killua has? Fucking rings. Somebody got wrung out. Oh, that is
Alaka.
It is okay. Yeah. I said it. Okay. Lumi's the older brother. Alaka is okay. Yeah, some Alaka level shit happened when the first time the Black Rose showed up and they killed that one girl. Just fucking, I don't even know what happened. They got wrung out basically. Like they fucking got wrung out, bro. I was like, what is happening?
It's also something that's frustrating too, because I don't understand it. I have to imagine the show, like, it makes money. Like, I have to imagine
that's
they're bringing in more money
too.
that they spent. And so I just don't really get why they wouldn't turn it into like its own little animated franchise and like do more stuff with it.
I hope someone else picks it up. Here's what I think. I've heard that Netflix in general has been overpaying a lot for every program that they have on Netflix. And like, we know that they gave Chappelle $20 million each for 2 specials, so $40 million. And like, that's not really normal. They pay a premium price for a lot of their content, and they don't make a lot of money from subscriptions, which is why they resorted to cracking down. Like, I don't have Netflix now because they cracked down on password sharing. They did that because they were doing bad, but like, I don't think that's going to help, to be honest. But basically what I'm saying is that Netflix has been in trouble for a while now, and it's speculation by a lot of investors and stuff are saying that there's a chance that in the next 5 years Netflix won't even exist unless someone buys them, like Amazon. Jeff Bezos, Big Daddy Jeff, says, all right, we're going to take over Netflix, which I could totally see happening because Amazon's not going anywhere. I can see Amazon coming in and being like, all right, you guys are failing. We already have our own, because Amazon Prime Video is ass comparatively.
It's so bad.
The interface and everything is just bad. I keep forgetting that I have it. Like every time, the only time I know I have it is when Invincible comes out. That's the only time I remember that we even have it. So I could see it one day, like if Netflix is doing really, really bad, that they just get bought out by Amazon. But my point is, on their financial statements, they have a lot of debt. They borrow a lot of money. I'm talking about billions of dollars. And they've been operating at a loss for over a decade. Like, they're not considered a profitable company. And that makes me worry about other programming that might be good that people like on there. I don't know if it's going to be able to continue because Arcane is expensive. You can tell by how much effort is put into the art, the voice acting. Everything about Arcane is top quality. They do not skimp out, and I'm thankful that they did not skimp out on quality in season 2. It looks amazing. It sounds amazing. The original music is amazing. The opening song by, was it Imagine Dragons or whoever does that fucking song that it opens with? That song is amazing too. Like, they pay for real artists and they pay for real sound design. It overall, the product itself is good. It's probably very expensive. And I don't know how subscriptions work, because it's not like people are buying Arcane when they buy a Netflix subscription.
Yeah.
They pay a flat price and then they watch whatever they want. How do you divvy that up to the creators? Like, how do you pay all those workers that animated that? Because the animation had to be so much money. The CG is so much CG and shit. Every time Jace's hammer did anything, I was blown away. Jace's hammer transformed like 16 different ways, and he eventually used it as a fucking crutch at one point. He like wrapped it around his leg and like used it to climb. I was like, bro, this thing is insane. So animation, CG, all that stuff is top notch. I imagine with just inflation alone, the price of everything in that show is just so much. And I don't know how you evaluate, well, how much money did this make? Like, how do you even quantify it?
But I also have to imagine that, like, and if they had to have, but if they didn't, they're idiots. It has to, in addition to however they justify what makes money on Netflix through streaming. Like merch, right? Like, there's no way they can't accelerate, because like League of Legends is big, right?
One of the biggest.
Arcane's probably bigger, and this is a shot in the dark, but what I mean is that like I think more people have probably watched Arcane than played League of Legends, because I think everybody that played League of Legends watched it.
Same.
And then also everybody else, like a bunch of people that don't play League of Legends,
like us,
yeah. So Arcane's really big. The designs from Arcane, like Jinx's design from Arcane, Vi's design from Arcane, Jason, et cetera. Their designs from Arcane are now like premium skins in League of Legends that people spend money on and whatnot. So I don't know. It's definitely something that I feel like can be a return on investment. I don't know how they do it. The other thing you bring up, Netflix is a good point in that Netflix is just notorious for killing shows anyway.
Yeah, they are.
Like, a show will just have good ratings and be doing well, and they're like, 3 seasons enough, it's dead. Like, why? Like they did the Mindhunter. Mindhunter is like
Yeah.
one of the it was a show that was like highly celebrated on Netflix. It got 2 seasons. Very obviously those 2 seasons were setting up a season 3, and they were like, nah, we're done.
Did you watch Mindhunter?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I love that show, by the way. That show was fucking amazing.
I watched season 1 and 2 without realizing that it got canceled, basically.
Me
and
too,
then
yeah.
afterwards, I like went to look up when season 3 is coming out, and I found out it's canceled. And I was like, this is so
But then
corny.
we get stuff that nobody asked for, like Squid Game season 2.
Oh my god.
That's coming out like in a week. It might be out now.
Yeah, I know.
But Squid Game season 2
might be out.
Yeah, Squid Game season 2 is coming back. And
Forgot about
I just think that, yeah, me too. And that, like, this is what I'm talking about. I don't know who's in the management team, who's on the management team at Netflix, but Luigi, do your thing. No, I'm kidding. But like, I just think that they need to figure something out, because Squid Game season 2 before Arcane season 3 seems like a huge misstep. I get it though. Squid Game season 1 was the biggest Netflix show ever. So they're probably just looking at the bottom line, but I don't think that Squid Game season 2, I could be wrong, and in a week we'll probably find out. I just don't think Squid Game season 2 is going to be as viral as season 1 was viral for a reason. We didn't know when they had to do red light, green light. Most people didn't know where the fuck it was going. I had an inclination. I was like, this is interesting. They're competing for money and all that. And I kind of felt that because I know about Japanese and Korean shows that do these death game things, like these.
Yeah.
Fucking put a bunch of kids.
Popular genre.
It is a popular genre. So as soon as I realized that the show was predominantly Asian and they were all being brought to a secluded area to play games, I was like, when red light, green light started, before the first bullet was ever fired, I felt that I was like, oh, this is a death game. And then somebody misstepped and they got fucking blown to bits.
It just seems so stupid. We talked about it before, but it's just dumb. The plot doesn't make sense. It's stupid. The shock from Squid Game went viral because in America that genre is not as popular. We had the Hunger Games and that's it. And that's why the Hunger Games was so big, because that genre wasn't popular, having kids in an arena. But in Japan and in Korea, that genre of having kids on an island fight to the death has literally been done 1 million times in the last 100 years. Yeah, there's a bunch of anime, books, movies.
Yes. I don't think that Squid Game is going to have that exact same success, because we're not going to be surprised when the first game starts in season 2 and people start getting off. Maybe they'll do something. They're going to do something crazy for the first game to kind of lure everybody in, right? The first game's going to be nuts.
I think episode 1 will probably have a lot of numbers, but I imagine it's not going to have as big of a through rate as season 1 did. I'll probably watch all of season 2 just because, like, we'll probably talk about it.
Yeah,
content on
it's popular.
I'm not excited to watch it at
Me
all.
either. As of right now, like I said, it could be out right now. I don't want to turn this podcast off and then turn on Squid Game season 2 right now.
No.
That's not what I want to do with my Christmas week.
No. Not even fucking close.
So, but yeah, all right, guys, I think we should wrap this one up here. Unless you have anything else, Kenny, I'm willing to...
No. We're good.
Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for listening, and thank you for your support throughout the year. I'm going to read off the names of the people at the party member or higher tier. There are 64 of you currently. So thank you so much. Also, shout out to Pudding for winning the IMNerd Winners Ball. Shout out to James Ark for getting second and Dominique Roberts for getting third. Dom, you motherfucker. Me and Kenny were rooting for you to win.
Third place is pretty good, but
do you know what happened? Do you know what actually happened, Kenny?
No, I was at work.
Dom could have very well won the tournament. He literally had work that day.
And he did say
in
chat, he said, like, I'm at work, I might not even be able to finish.
And he couldn't. He literally couldn't finish the tournament. So he got all the way to winners finals. He lost to Pudding for the first time in 8 sets. They played 8 sets prior. And every time they played, Dom was 7-0 against Pudding. They got to winners finals together, which I thought was amazing, because despite the fact that there were a bunch of people who entered the tournament that don't necessarily enter all the IMNerd tournaments, but like Pudding and Dom enter a lot of them. Mm-hmm. I thought it was cool that the winners finals came down to 2 people who have been like supporting the brand more than anyone else, really, when it comes to like the tournament scene. And they've won the most as well throughout the year. Like they literally have the 1 and 2 respectively number of wins throughout all IMNerd tournaments. So I thought that was really cool that winners finals, despite all the other talent that was in the tournament, Pudding and Dom were like the winners finals of the whole thing. It got to losers finals. James made it to Dom, and then Dom was like, yeah, I actually just cannot play. Like I cannot go further. So he's like, I'll just take third. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, we thought Dom was going to win it all. But before it started, we thought Dom was not even like, not to put anything past anyone else, because like obviously there's a lot of good players who could have won, but
there's incredible talent there. It's just that for whatever reason, specifically in the IMNerd tournaments, Dom gets a buff.
He's insane.
For whatever reason, he does so well in those tournaments.
Doesn't matter what deck he plays either. That's the weird part.
Yeah, like it's crazy.
So anyway, shout out to everybody who entered that tournament. Thank you guys for supporting us throughout the year. And with that being said, I'm going to give a shout out to Jester of the side events, Leon, the Milkman of the side events, Xavier Swift, This Ain't God, This is Stanley Earl, Luigi Wick, spotted at the side events, Dom, Dragon Ruler of the side events, Henry Reynolds, First to Home, Hydro Pump, Vincenzo, Dallas Bailey, KJ, The Flow with Doc and Ziggy, Chaos of the side events, Sarah Maria, Alex Ahern, FT Campa, Calbatello, I'll Let You Suckle My Titties. By the way, I've been saying this for months and I didn't know what it meant. Be more. I finally have seen Dan the Dan episode 1, and when that old hag came out and said, "I'll let you suckle my teats," I was like,
I had the same reaction. I had the same fucking reaction.
Bro, we've been saying that we've been reading this name out for months now. Had no idea what the fuck you were talking about. And now, because I've been saying titties, but it's really teats. But yeah, she's like, "I'll let you suckle my teats." And she wants dongs of boys and all that shit. Dan to Dan is wild. I only seen episode 1 so far. I do plan to watch more of it.
Talk about that.
Yes, we could definitely do the first 5 or however you want to do it, first 6, whatever makes sense. But we will be doing that at some point. Sugal, Nafa, Vicky Venomine, Elijah Barfall, Tyler Tadeo, Volvita Mega Monarch. How do we join these tournaments? General 215, Joshua Carroll, Eric Chai, Brian Moore, Behind the Duel with this podcast with Ty and Justin, Mike and John, and then we have
Tim Bailey's Glazed Smooth Butt got an email. Toto's Curse Technique, but it's only back shots. Frozen Go Dojo, B-Dog23, Hershey Bar, Phil and Poister, Romeo Snyder of Team Hugh, Tyler Frazier, Daniel Anderson, Deroa, Chicken Toaster Strudel, Jordan Eastman, Robert Light, Kazzy95, Clanger, Pavinci, Travis Lurs, Harsh Kumar, ST19, Gregory Calmaring, Juan Ambry, Limp Bizkit Jigsaw, Mike and John, Blue Fluff, Kyle Crudeau, Frago, Anthony Japov, Michael Zhang, and Konjik.
there's one more.
It's not showing up. Let me see. So I'll go over here maybe. Konjik. And then okay. So okay. So Konjik and then I don't know why it wasn't showing up for me. And then Tyler.
Yep. Shout out to you, Tyler, being the newest member and also at the main character tier, which is really nice. So we appreciate the support. The extra support goes a long way. But yeah, to everybody who's currently on our Patreon and everyone who's been supporting us, liking our YouTube content, as we dive into like Pokemon CCG Pocket, Teach Me How to Cook, Master and Disaster, the shorts, all the things that we've been doing this year. We are officially the number 2 biggest channel for retro Yu-Gi-Oh right now, which is a really big goal that we had. And so it's really nice that we were able to, in 2024, before the year ended, we are only behind Keegan at this point. Like Keegan is the only retro channel that is bigger. And that is fucking awesome. That is because of you guys listening to the podcast, sharing it with your friends, and helping us to gain subscribers and Patreon members and all that stuff. So it does not go understated at all in our groups and stuff that we really, really appreciate every single one of you. Thank you so much.
It's pretty fucking awesome. And we're going to keep growing. Like Frazier said, that was a big goal for us, is to, try to grow as much as we could and then, continue to do so.
Yeah.
So
we're almost at 7,000 subscribers right now. We're at like 6,700. And that is crazy. The numbers are getting so big that it's kind of weird to think that like that many people are actually watching and like subscribing to the content. When I was live streaming Worlds a couple weeks back, at one point there were 511 people watching at one point.
Awesome.
That is
it's
insane.
Awesome.
So,
and not just awesome for our channel and the growth of our channel, but it's also awesome for retro Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yes.
The fact that there's that many people involved and, being part of the format and helping it grow is just really incredible. And all the content that we have going, all the new content that we're making, don't worry, after the holidays, there's going to be even more. I can't wait. I cannot wait for the holidays to be over.
Yeah. I mean, I won't say I can't wait for it to be over, because for me, when it comes to my job, this is a great time because it's so much like downtime, basically.
Yeah.
But I get what you mean, because this time of the year is busy despite work being light.
Yep.
So there's like a different kind of busy, but I prefer this kind of busy and stressed than I do like work stress and all that. So I can't wait for it to become daylight at 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock p.m. again.
Oh boy,
that's what I don't like. I do not like this time of the year because it's fucking dark at 4:30 p.m. Just not a fan. I like when you look outside at 7 o'clock and it is still plenty of light out. Like, listen, I love that.
Also, it is so cold in my current living situation. If you guys, for anybody seeing the video behind me, I have a bunch of pillows pushed into my window right now. I
see that.
Because that's a window.
I've been staring at that, by the way.
I just like shoved, because there's so much cold air coming in through this freaking window that I'm like, I got to do something. And it helped a little bit, but I'm like, I shoved some pillows up there to try to like keep some warmth in. I don't know. But anyway, it's freaking cold. I can't wait. Well, I say that, but then I'm going to be like so goddamn hot.
Right.
So I do overall like the cold more than the heat because I feel like it's a bit easier to adjust in the cold than when it's hot. There's just nothing you can do. But anyway, I'm rambling. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, as I always say, guys, do the things that make you happy, including being honest about, you know, Arcane and where it went and where it came. But enjoying the show nonetheless. And with that being said, we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.
Peace.